when he buys that product, not once, not twice, 100 times, but he still feels happy by utilizing the product to the maximum value. Now, psychologically speaking, human beings are always carried away by numbers. They like that quantitative way of talking. I know that there are n number of goods available in the market, too good, too nice, really wonderful to have those goods. Good morning and welcome to the first session, Unit 2, 5th semester BCom Business Analysis, where we are going to speak about consumer behavior analysis. Now, this is a very interesting topic where we are going to speak about the consumer. Now, when I say the consumer, we are the consumers. Every day, in every walk of life, we try to consume something. It might be food, it might be services, it might be a product. So we are the consumers, we are the testers, we are the people who experience each and every activity that happens around us. Now let's go further and try to understand the consumer behavior. The study of how individual customers, the organizations, select, buy, use, and dispose the good ideas, services, and meet their requirements is what we talk about consumer behavior. Now, every time when a consumer goes to the market, he goes with an expectation. He goes with the thought process that he's going to buy something new today, he's going to have something better today, he's going to get his needs and wants satisfied. So he's not a person who goes there with just an empty mind, but rather his mind is filled with expectations, his mind is filled with thoughts, with ideas, with price, with income, so many other factors that would reflect his behavior. So a consumer's action at the marketplace and the motivations behind those actions actually determine the buy or sell for a given practice, which means to say that at any given point of time, unless the buying behavior of the customer is satisfied in terms of price, in terms of his expectation, the complete closure, the complete activity would not take place. Moving further, utility. Now, this is a very common topic that we have studied in our pre-university level, where we always talk about the factor called as utility. The utility is the want-satisfying capacity of a commodity. So, whenever I use the word want-satisfying commodity, that means to say that the utility is obtained by the greater value satisfaction. A customer feels completely happy when he buys that product, not once, not twice, 100 times, but he still feels happy by utilizing the product to the maximum value. He feels so happy that every time when he is using that particular product, he tries to go to the peak of satisfaction. He wants to see that the product is giving him the maximum satisfaction for the value that he has spent. Similarly, this utility is always a subjective concept, which means to say that it changes from person to person. Certain people might like ice cream, certain people might not like ice cream. Certain people might like chocolates, others may not. Now, I'm not just talking about preferences, but I'm also talking about the utility value, which means certain people derive satisfaction from certain products. And until those products are not met according to their satisfaction levels, then we are not talking about utility today. The consumer's desire for that item is usually determined by the utility, the satisfaction that he obtains from them. The next thing, the types of utility. We are going to talk about the types of utility. So utility is not just a single term that we are talking about. Why? Because this utility has got to understand the levels of pleasures that one has to undergo in terms of numbers, in terms of priorities, and then we will also talk about the total utility value. First, let's talk about the cardinal utility. When I use the word cardinal, that means the utility is measured in terms of numbers. That's the most important thing. Now, psychologically speaking, human beings are always carried away by numbers. They like that quantitative way of talking. They like to get carried away. They like to express themselves more numerically rather than qualitatively. Now, why that comes into picture is that whenever we tend to compare ourselves with others, we put ourselves at the higher pedestal. We feel that we need to be better than the others. We always feel that having something more than what the others have will put us in a better position. Now, that can be car, that can be house, that can be money, or that can be any other thing that we are talking about, but I always need something more than the others. So whenever the utility or the satisfaction value is derived by just counting the numbers, by talking more about numbers, then we are talking about the utility in terms of cardinal utility analysis. And this is very, very important. Now, similarly, we're going to talk about marginal utility. This is very, very important. Why? Because the marginal utility is the change in overall utility that is caused by consumption of an additional unit of commodity. Now, to just put it in other way, it is what you gain by having one additional unit. So whenever you feel happy by eating one more chocolate, one more ice cream, one more vada pav, what happens here is that you gain an amount of satisfaction which is priceless, which cannot be explained to others. That's because that one additional unit is going to make you feel happy. It's going to make you feel that level of satisfaction that is probably not being derived. So that marginal utility is something that everybody craves for. Every time when you get that one additional, you suddenly start feeling that, yes, I have got something more. So every marginal utility, as we are speaking about, is the additional value that the consumer would feel satisfied, would feel happy by consuming it. So every time that one additional, buy one, get one free, buy two, get two free, that extra that you get every time will make the consumer consume more, will make him feel happy, and that's what exactly is marginal utility. As we move further, we talk about ordinal utility analysis. Now, when we were talking about cardinal, we were talking about numbers, but when I come down to ordinal, I'm going to talk about the non-quantification, which means to say that now I'm going to talk about priority in life. Let me try to become philosophical for a minute here. Why? Because we are all human beings who also believe in philosophy apart from materialistic. We are a combination of both. Now, when I go to the philosophical side of me, I would start making certain priorities in my life. And the priorities always come with a cost, no doubt about it. I'm ready to pay that cost for it. But here, what is that priority as we are talking about? Now, if I'm going to talk about the basic level security of my life, so I'll be talking about food, shelter, and clothing, that would be my first level priority. Second would be my career. Third would be my identity. Fourth would be my securing of my family. Then I would think about my retirement. So I'm just trying to put myself into the field of an hierarchical mode where I am prioritizing myself with certain requirements. And if all these requirements are being met one by one, then automatically I tend to become an ordinal utility based analysis. I always believe in one thing clearly. I say that unless and until, realistically speaking, if all these functions are achieved one by one, I don't get satisfied. I will get satisfied only when my priorities are met. That's exactly what ordinal utility also says. It says that you need to get your priorities done, and that's how in economics, the consumer satisfaction is also arrived. Now, moving further, I would like to talk about the total utility, where I say that the total satisfaction that is derived by consumption of a given unit. Now, when I use that word total utility, that means complete satisfaction. I have to completely consume the product. Now, many a times what happens here is that total utility cannot be measured in just parts. It is a one-time satisfaction that you get by completing the action at a given point of time. So when I consume the entire plate of rice, when I consume the entire bowl of ice cream, when I consume the entire bowl of salad, When I consume the entire bowl of chocolate, that's exactly I'm getting the total utility. Why? Because now my mind says that you have achieved your utility levels. You have made yourself satisfied by having what you want. So total utility is the complete combination of all units put together, and that makes the consumer feel happy that yes, I have achieved my target. Yes, I have achieved what I wanted today. So that's exactly where I would say the combination of total utility matters a lot in economics. The marginal utility, I mean, when we start talking about the MRS, the marginal rate of substitution, now this is very, very interesting for us to know in economics. The rate at which a consumer substitutes one good over another as long as the latter good is providing equal satisfaction, we call it as marginal rate of substitution. Now, there are too many things for us to understand here. There are too many things. Let's first decipher one by one. We'll start with two goods, goods A and good B. And then you also might have a good C. We will talk about it later. But then we'll first try to understand the good A and B. I'm very much interested in the product A, but unfortunately in the market, suddenly the product A is not available. It got depleted. The production got stopped. What do I do now? Should I just leave it like that? No, I would start finding substitutes for it. Unfortunately, I found the substitute as product B. Now, I would try to start using product B. Why? Because I don't have product A coming into the market. The product B is a substitute over product A. And I start feeling that product B is equally good like product A. So the latter product, now when product B is able to give the equal amount of satisfaction as what product A was giving it to me, I come into the position called as marginal rate of substitution. Why? Because I'm not completely substituted. I am marginally substituted. I've gone one by one, level by level. I'm not saying that I will completely deplete product A. I'll forget it. No, I'm not saying that. Right now, I will try to marginally substitute A over the B factor or B over the A factor, and I will try to get my satisfaction levels satisfied. Now, the marginal rate of substitution is a slope of indifference curve. It's because it's always on a diminishing rate. So you would see that the marginal rate of substitution always comes down, but it doesn't become a zero. It almost touches towards a zero. So at some point of time, yes, people get depleted in terms of the satisfaction. And the next one, consumer budget, the most interesting thing that anybody can talk about. Consumer budget means to say that the combination of goods and services that a consumer can purchase based on the current price and income. Combination of goods and services. This word is very, very important. At the price with the given income. So two things. There is a price in the market and there is an income that is being earned by the consumer. Now, both the things have to match somewhere. I know that there are n number of goods available in the market. Too good, too nice, really wonderful to have those goods. But the real problem with me is that I don't have the income to substitute. I don't have the income that can make me feel happy. So somewhere I need to reduce on the budget. Somewhere I need to modify on my budget. Somewhere I need to see that I'm able to bridge the gap. That's exactly where the consumer budget is a very, very tricky situation for all of us to understand, which means the real money or the purchasing power which he can use to purchase the given products at the given price. So whenever you go to the market to buy something, the first thing that rings in your mind is price. We might have great brands, great quality, great advertisement, big appeal. Everything is fantastic. But at the end of the day, what matters a lot is money. The money that you carry in your hand, the money that is available for you to purchase the product. And God forsaken, God forbid, if that situation arrives where you're not able to buy that product, then your budget doesn't set in, automatically that becomes a negative closing. So the positive closing for a consumer budget is always price and income. That's always the most important thing that we need to see whenever we talk about the budget. So the combination of price and income is actually the budget. in that price, in that given income, the set of all goods that I can buy constitutes my consumer budget. Now, the budget set. Now, the budget set is a collection of all the bundles that the consumer can buy with his current income at the current market prices. So, all the goods. So, which means now I'm talking about combinations. I'm talking about all those factors that are available, that can be made like a bundle, that can be made available for us. So that's exactly where I'm getting interested. Why? Because it's a collection. It's not a unitary demand that I'm talking about. It's a collection that a consumer can purchase with her income at the current market levels. So consumer's budget is essentially a collection of all bundles of goods and services that the consumer can purchase with the available funds. So this is very, very important for all of us to understand. Why? Because it is that value that makes us to buy the particular products or the goods at that set. So this is very, very important for us. Without the budget set, one cannot understand this entire activity. A budget line is a graphical representation. So if I just put a line, or if I just try to represent something like this, trying to tell about my budget starting from the month of January, February, March, April, you would be able to see a graphical line talking about my spending in the entire year, trying to say that how much a consumer has been able to buy at a given set of prices and what has been his purchasing capacity, what has been his real budget in the last 1 year. So every month, the consumer will spend something, the consumer will gain something, and he will try to tell the people, he will try to tell the society that this is what I can afford and this is what I am affordable and this is how I have been spending in the last few months. So this budget set, budget line is something that is very, very important for all of us to understand how the goods and consumers are being bought based on this price and income factors. Now, the demand function, all of us know what is a demand function. Yes, we have been speaking about demand for a very long time. Now, demand is typically a functional relationship taken between a commodity's quantity and its various determinants. So there are various determinants, but basically when I just talk about the word demand, all of us know price is the determination function. So whenever I write the function demand is equal to function of price, it means to say that basically when the price increases, demand falls down, and when the price decreases, the demand goes up. And that is the common man level of talking when it comes to demand. But then demand also has its own determinants. It has its own set of functions which determine the action. So let us try to see what it is. When it comes to the determinant factors, it might be even the taste, it might be even the closely related substitutes and other factors. Why that is important is because when we start talking about the properties of indifference curve, the demand also comes into picture. The first property that we need to learn, an indifference curve will slope downwards from left to right. It's always a negative slope curve. So whenever you see that, it will be sloping like this from left to right, which means to say that the consumer will have more unit of one good and reduce on other unit, and it will always come down from the higher value to that of the lower value. So always an indifference curve will be a slope from the left to that of the bottom right. It will not change at any given instance. Now that is very important for all of us to understand. Followed by which the next property is it's convex to the origin. It's always convex. So whenever I draw a convex, it should be like this. It cannot be the other way around like this. It cannot be a concave curve. Why it's not a concave curve? Because to gain an equal amount of good X, the consumer will decline on good Y. So one has to substitute over the other factor. And this will keep on moving downwards like the MRS curve as we have been talking about. So at any given point of time, the indifference curve is a sloping curve downwards and it's always convex to the origin. The third thing is that it is on the right representing higher level of satisfaction. Higher the indifference curve. So first time, second time, third time, higher the indifference curve. When you start seeing, higher will be the level of satisfaction. I know it is the same good, But for the consumer, what happens is when he spends more money to consume the same kind of food at a higher level, the satisfaction also starts going high. So what happens, the higher the level of consumption, now you will start seeing that I'm getting more value. I'm feeling that it's better for me to pay at those levels and take it. So higher the levels of satisfaction can be represented by higher levels of indifference curve. The next thing is that they will never intersect each other. So you cannot see an indifference curve coming like this. This is impossible, which means to say that no two people are same. No two people's preference would be the same. So indifference curve cannot be taken as a factor of commonality, which means to say that indifference curve cannot give you any big satisfaction level. Two people cannot have the same levels of satisfaction. It will differ from people to people, and that has to be accepted. So that's very, very important for all of us. Now, the next thing is the property again, where we'll see it will not either touch the axis. So indifference curve will not come like this, cut like this, or go like this. It will not touch the axis because we believe that considering the combination of two, though there might be smaller quantities or higher quantities, they'll still continue to stick around and they'll not become completely zero. Now, the law of diminishing marginal utility, it says that after consuming a certain amount of good or service, it would start diminishing the more and more you consume. So first time when you consume 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, and then the thirst for coffee or tea will start coming down. Why? Because you have consumed. And once your consumption starts going up, the level of satisfaction will start coming down. So that's what we call it as diminishing marginal utility. I mean, that's where we also say successive unit goes on a diminishing mode altogether. Now, the assumptions, it's a rational behavior of the consumer, the cardinal measurability of utility, which is very much there. Utility can be measured by money and the marginal utility will always remain constant. Mental status and income of the consumer is very important these days because psychologically speaking, a consumer has his own perception, he has his own values. So again, those factors will also play a very, very important role when we are talking about the behavioral analysis. And the price of commodity, price of other commodity factors which affect their utility, they are also needed. Standard units of commodity are consumed like a cup of tea or not for a spoon of tea. Now, the consumption is also continuous and not with a gap of day or two. So all these factors will matter a lot when we are talking about this utility function. Explanation of the law, when we see that the consumer increases the consumption of any commodity, the additional value will start giving you more value because it's always interesting to see. And then after a certain point, the additional unit will become zero. So more and more when you start consuming, the resources start getting depleted and you will also start losing the interest because your satisfaction levels would have already been achieved. With that, what will happen? The value will start falling to zero. The limitations is that it's only assumption like cardinal and ordinal value. The utility will get affected by the presence and absence of articles, yes, that are there, which are substitute or complement. This is not universal because sometimes when we talk about prestigious goods or precious metals and all those kind of things, then this law will not be applicable at all. So again, we have this consumer equilibrium where we are going to understand how the price of different goods, when the income and price matches at a particular point or at a particular level altogether, then it will start coming into a consumer equilibrium. So when I say the demand and supply meet at certain point, that particular point is where we define the equilibrium altogether. So it's an existing point, but then the market has to determine according to the nature of consumption, the price and the income factor through which the consumer equilibrium will be achieved. Now that will give the maximum satisfaction on spending his particular income. With that, I come to the end of today's session. I hope and believe that all the facts and figures that we have spoken will be of a great help to you, both in terms of theory as well as in the practical walk of life. In the upcoming session, we would be talking more about the market structure and dynamics. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session. You have a great day ahead.